We've got AI Day 2 coming September 30th. What do you think we're in store for with AI Day, and do you have any predictions on what may be revealed?
Yeah, that's I love how you kicked off the interview. That's I've been thinking about that a lot, right? So AI day 2, it's funny because the last AI day, most people, let's say 99% of the population, maybe even more, had no idea what the hell was shown during that, right? It was a very technical and very focused sort of showing of what Tesla's working on in a space that is still quite abstract to many people, let alone Wall Street. Like Wall Street can't get their heads wrapped around a supercomputer that's going to potentially develop artificial general intelligence 10, 20, 30 years down the road that's going to allow Tesla to become a completely different company in the future, right? So like people can't that what does that mean, right? It's weird. And so AI Day 2 is a continuation of that. But I think what's interesting about AI Day 2 is that I think a lot of that abstract nature of that first meeting of AI Day 1 is going to become much more easy to grasp for the wider public. I think that's going to be one of the main reasons why they're doing it is to say, hey, like the first one was great and it was sort of geared towards talent. It was geared towards hiring people, but nothing, the bot was shown, but it was just a dude dancing, right? There's nothing, real. But this time we're going to have the potential of having a real bot, which I really think is going to happen. They're going to have a legitimate real bot that's going to be out there doing motions, listening to commands, maybe executing tasks that are going to be obviously helpful in a factory setting or a warehouse setting or a laborer's setting, whatever it is. So I think that's going to be one of the primary focuses on that. It's going to be how Tesla's sort of moving away from this label of car company. And like Tesla investors kind of know that Tesla's not just a car company, it's very many different things. But I think this is yet another example of uh, Tesla really becoming way more than a car company. They're going to become an AI company, And yeah, I'm really excited to see what's going to happen. I do think showing the bot's going to be by far the highlight of the whole presentation. I think maybe more examples around how much improvements they're making on FSD and reinforcing the fact that it's going to be launched as it's going to be solved, quote unquote solved by the end of the year. This year, they'll probably keep pushing that narrative. Yeah. So, but I do think bot's going to be the showcase, the primary showcase.
Yeah, I think it would definitely be amazing if they had an actual bot this time, not the dude dancing. And even if
Yeah.
it's able to do something simple, like just pick up a box, put it on a shelf, I'm going to lose my mind. Like that would be such an incredibly fast progress and just show you, how quickly we know the company's moving and really the potential for it, getting it into warehouses probably a lot sooner than people think.
Yeah. I think the how it learns to do that too, they're gonna showcase as well. So like I think that's gonna be the differentiator between what a Tesla presentation would be versus any other company. I don't know if you saw, I think it was last week or very recently, there was a company in China that showcased a robot that was holding a flower and it handed a flower over. But it was a very it kind of reminded me of Asimo, which was, I think it was Honda or I forget which company made it, but it was like a robot that could move and do some simple tasks. But it looked scripted. It looked like there was just somebody clicking give flower command, walk command, wave command. It wasn't interpreting what was around it and then executing based on that interpretation. I think that's where what Tesla's going to showcase next month, which really would show the fruits of the investments that they've made in the Doja computer and AI and all the things that they've been working towards. Is okay. We're not just putting in a line of code and pressing a button. We're allowing the robot to decide what to do based on the command that was given. So it's not going to be as simple as picking up the box. It's going to be, you know, Optimus, please put away this box. And the bot in real time, I'm hoping that's what they do on the screen in real time. They show how the bot is looking at its environment and how it's deciding what is a box and the position of it and how it's going to approach the pickup and where the pickup points are and how it's going to move that product into the shelf. Like I would love it if they literally have a warehouse sort of simulated space where you would have like a staging area and some racks with labels and be like, "Hey, put it away in bin 4 in rack 2," or something like that. And then the robot will just do it, you know?
Right.
It's gonna be fascinating. It's gonna be super fascinating.
Yeah, I agree. I'm looking forward to it, and yeah, like you said, whereas the first AI day really wasn't widely understood, and it was also more so geared toward a hiring event, and it succeeded at that as they got their applications for the engineers just skyrocketed after. I
Mhm.
think it'll be cool to see the physical product here. You recently tweeted about how AI, automation, robotics, all these things coming together, and how its influence on the future could kind of massively affect how companies' price to earnings ratios are awarded and
That
how
was just this
companies can loan
morning. I like
money.
your research, bro. It's recent. I like it.
So if you want to expand on that and kind of tell us what do you
Yeah.
think that could mean for Tesla?
Yeah, that is thank you for bringing it. Literally, that was like this morning I woke up and I'm like, because I've been thinking about this. So I'll kind of give you a little bit of context. So um, it wasn't until very recently that it finally clicked to me what it means that an economy is growing. And I don't know if that's my like lack of intelligence or I'm just dumb or I wasn't paying enough attention to it, but it finally clicked what it means for an economy to grow. And the way economies grow, for those that maybe are not as familiar, is that essentially the primary function that drives growth is banks are loaning money to businesses and companies with the trust that those businesses, companies, and individuals are able to create value using that money for the population. And so essentially, say you have $1 million in the economy, and the bank says, you know what, I like your business proposition. Here's $100,000. That makes the economy 1.1 million, and that's how you grow the economy. And then you hope, that's why banks are picky and choosy about who they could give money to because they want to make sure that they can get their money back over time. They're not just going to give it to anybody willy nilly because then you have a gigantic problem in your hands. But that is one of the primary functions that drives economic growth. I'm like, okay, so I finally understood that. So I'm like, okay, that finally clicks. But then in a different way of saying that is that the economy grows by the function of businesses and people bringing the future forward, right? So that is the function of a growing economy. Is like you're envisioning what the future could look like, and you're going to borrow against the future to create the product now, right? So that is a growing economy in sort of like a more abstract sense. But then I'm like, okay, so in a world where AI and automation and full self driving and things like that are becoming more and more likely in the future, then I started thinking about, okay, what are the implications to the economy from that perspective, right? When you have factories that are cranking out not just 500,000 cars, but 2 million cars, 3 million cars, and they're doing it at an incredibly efficient manner with very low costs because of automation and AI. Think about the Tesla bot. The Tesla bot, uh, you know, 10, 20 years down the road could very well be a replacement for a lot of laborious jobs like I don't know, construction and factory worker, which we can talk about a host of sort of different things how this is good and bad because I do think there's a lot of negatives to that too. But let's focus on the value creation part of it. So if you're on this curve now where you're going from all humans are doing labor with software helping to AI doing all the software coding and things like full self-driving essentially replacing a bunch of drivers and the bot replacing a bunch of workers, and these systems are orders of magnitude 10 100 times more efficient, safer, the uptime is basically 100% of the time, then the future turns into this weird thing where the value creation is almost like infinite in a way. It's like there's so much value created in the future that the model of like the whole like bringing the future forward kind of breaks because you're going from I think I'm going to get 10% better in a year or in 10 years to like I might be 1,000 times, 100,000, a million times better in 10 years. So how does that change the formula of bringing the future forward, right? And so that's where my head went to is like, okay, so if you have this crazy S curve happening, what is a PE multiple at that point, right? Like right now, if you think of a PE multiple, it's price to earnings, but essentially think of it this way: it's a way of the market to price for how many years a company's profits will last for, right? So if Ford is getting a 10 price earnings, what it's basically saying is you're taking that year's earnings, you're timesing it by 10, and you're assigning a fair value. Another way of saying that is that the market is predicting that Ford will keep up these earnings for 10 years. That's another way of thinking about it. So it's giving value to something from the future and bringing it forward. But what happens when a company has bots and full self-driving, so on and so forth? What does that future look like? Okay. So and then how far into the future are people willing to give a multiple to for a company like Tesla? And then you layer on top of that the amount of cash you're going to be generating already at that time. So you have a double multiplying factor. So, um, and I have no idea what the number is. I'm just like conceptually speaking, I just think the formula starts to change in the world of automation and robotics and AI. And it's hard to conceptualize. Like I'm still thinking through it, but like no, like Wall Street doesn't think like that. Wall Street thinks, past performance forward. They take your quarterly earnings that you closed on a month ago, and then they're like, "This is the fair value we'll give you as, a stock price." I'm like, "Okay, great." But in reality, so, something like a Tesla, call it now, those PE multiples that's receiving, which is, I think it's like 78 forward PE or something like that, um, proves that there is a part of the market that's not pricing it, backwards looking. They're pricing it for future performance. But if again the future looks crazy, what does that mean?